Remaking a beloved game can't be easy. You need to balance between the expectations of the fans while creating something modern that can bring in new ones. From Resident Evil to Final Fantasy, our greatest games are being remade more than ever, and Konami has entered the ring with Silent Hill 2 and Metal Gear Solid Delta, a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, a game that needs no introduction. But did Konami do Kojima's work justice? Delta is in a unique position compared to most remakes of today. Resident Evil and Final Fantasy went for a complete transformation, with up-to-date graphics, modern controls, and alterations to the storyline. Delta is just a graphical and gameplay remake. The story of Metal Gear Solid 3 is left unchanged, and that's for the better as Metal Gear Solid 3 has one of the best stories in any video game. And Konami would look crazy if they fired a man, then went back to change his work. If you want to know more about Metal Gear Solid 3's story, its themes, and its message, check out the part 1 of my Metal Gear Solid 3 review. For Delta, I just want to talk about the changes to the graphics and gameplay, as they are actually different this time around. When I first got control of Snake, I was hit with a very familiar feeling. The control scheme seemed familiar, the menus, the gameplay feel, everything was just at home for me. I thought they nailed the changes to the gameplay with modern third-person aiming, which was actually in the 3DS version of Metal Gear Solid 3. The ability to crouch walk, a punchier CQC attack, and an over-the-shoulder camera that makes crawling through grass possible without the game forcing you into first person. I felt at home. Everything just clicked. Sure, coming fresh off the original Metal Gear Solid 3 caused me to mix up a few buttons here or there, but after swapping my roll and action button around and taking out a few guards, I was ready to take on the mission at hand. But I can't get past why this game feels so familiar to me. Maybe it's because this game is Metal Gear Solid 5 with a Metal Gear Solid 3 mod all over it. The movement, aiming, beefy CQC, everything is ripped from Metal Gear Solid 5. Now, that isn't a bad thing at all. If you needed any game as a reference to how modern day Metal Gear should play, going to the last game, You Don't Count, just makes sense. It's been a while, but I remember feeling like Metal Gear Solid 5 was the greatest stealth game I ever played, and one day I have to go back and see if that still holds true. But building this remake off of the foundation laid by Kojima and the Fox engine was a genius move. But it came with some gameplay changes that may not be so authentic to the original game's design. First and foremost, Delta is way easier by default compared to the original game. Not a bad thing, but it's really noticeable with the autosaves at every level transition, and the speed of Metal Gear Solid 5's crawling animation being tossed into Delta. Crouch walking is an appreciated addition that was actually in the 3DS version of Metal Gear Solid 3, but it's safe to say that most people never played that copy. There's a stalk button that replaces the D-pad's usefulness, but they decided to change the D-pad into a menu system. A new camouflage hot swap is here that I'm sure the new kids will love, but I stuck with the original menu. The modern third-person shooting and smoother first-person aiming also contributes to the ease of this game. I struggled with myself when it came to the new controls and quicker movement. As a Metal Gear Solid 3 vet, I had zero issues with the changes aside from Snake's slightly odd feeling roll. Plus, I could see how the original game's controls could feel outdated or complex for younger gamers, so this change is a win-win for everyone. My struggle came with my view of the original game's controls. I don't think they're bad, nor do I think the modern controls are much better. It's a weird gray area where it feels like a different approach versus an outright improvement. That could be due to me being so used to Metal Gear Solid 3's controls that I have a hard time seeing the flaws in them. There is a slight negative to the new movement, and it goes back to the game being a lot easier, most of the time. Snake crawls much faster here, and being able to crawl in first person breaks any sense of challenge this game has. You are so fast like this, and unlike third person crawling, which does have some funky things when you try to back up, first person has no downsides when you crawl. There were times I would just crawl all over the stage and never get caught because it was just so easy to sneak by guards this way. You would think that the enemy would have better detection skills to compensate for the new gameplay. In a way, they have improved vision, as this sniper that I rarely would get spotted by in the original game consistently caught me, to the point of me losing my mind. But that's not the full story. These guards have the same behavior as they do in Metal Gear Solid 5. That would be fine if this game was Metal Gear Solid 5, but it's Metal Gear Solid 3. What I quickly learned was moving around, especially without holding the stalker button, would get you caught. However, if you remember not to move at all, even when the enemy should be able to easily see you, nothing will happen, at least on the normal difficulty. Stalker controls were important in the original game, but that was typically when you were up close trying to sneak up on a guard. Now it's important if you're just moving about. This guy by this log is a perfect example of how they notice movement but not someone right in their face. Do any of these complaints ruin anything? Well, no, but it's a bit weird to not keep the fair level of difficulty from the original game while also adding Metal Gear Solid 5's elements. You can even cheese the stalker button by repeatedly tapping it. Hunting big animals is also faster in Metal Gear Solid Delta, as a few knife swings can take them out compared to before you really need to dice up your alligators. I want to go back to this game's speed for a second. I mentioned the sniper on the roof spotting me. I noticed that anywhere I would move, he would get into a position close to me. I don't remember him doing this in the original game, so I had to check. And he does, but it's not nearly as aggressive. He tracks Snake in both versions, but it's at a slower rate, giving you room to actually attack him. And he doesn't have laser vision like he does in the remake. This is another example of how you can't just change things without testing them. Another change I quickly noticed was the addition of bullet drop. Now can you guess what game had bullet drop before and which game didn't? This is one of those changes I'm not mad at, but unless I missed it, they don't mention it anywhere in the controls. I was missing train shots for a good while until I happened to notice that the bullet was arching down. I think this is a small added challenge which balances out the easier third-person controls. They should have just told you about them. Speaking of changing things, the boss fights in Delta got nerfed like crazy. Ocelot is so easy that I didn't even have to move much. The pain and the fury felt about the same, although they made the fury stage too bright, which kind of destroys the atmosphere of this fight. It's easier because of the new controls, and every fight is affected by it, including the final fight with the boss. She was so easy, if it wasn't for me going for the CQC trophy, I could have just simply sniped her to death. And they made countering her ultra easy. This fight is nothing like the fun but challenging original. And that really sucks because this fight from a narrative standpoint is supposed to be hard for Snake both emotionally and on a skill level. Vogan 2 became a pushover and I think he only hit me one time. Maybe it's better on higher difficulties, but that doesn't excuse anything as two fights remain about the same. Now, thanks to the faster speed of Delta, fighting the end is a lot quicker than before. You still need to hunt him down, but both him and Snake have a bit more pep in their step, making this traditionally long fight not as long, but just as fun. Now, the fear was always a joke, even in the original game, as long as you have the thermal goggles. The only difference here is that it's even easier because the aiming in third person is so much better in this game than it is in the original. The greatest benefactor to this game's change in physics and speed has to be the Shacklehog fight. As epic as the chase scene is, it always felt oddly slow to me. Now it feels like a tank with a jet engine is hunting me down. There are other few issues I have with the gameplay. The realistic lighting jacks up the glow effect from the cigar in the cave, making this trick useless. Because Snake moves like he did in Metal Gear Solid 5, he can feel slippery, especially on tight paths. He also has that auto wall hug, which I was triggering when I really didn't want him to. In the original game, you had to walk directly into a wall, and there was this feel between when Snake would do the animation from leaning against the wall to getting off the wall. Now Snake will lean against a wall when I don't want him to, and sometimes if the camera isn't in the right position, he won't do it at all when you need him to. Another minor complaint has to be the changes to the herbs. They work like they always did, but the original game gave them a brighter color to stand out in the environment. That's been replaced, so if you don't know where the herbs typically are, I know this game like the back of my hand, so I know where they were, but I could see a new player not even knowing this is something they can collect to give them first aid, because they just blend in with the environment now. A few negatives here and there, but really man, this remake from a gameplay perspective is amazing. My major problems with the easier gameplay could be fixed in an update, or maybe I need to just go up to European Extreme. But as a longtime player, I was more than happy with the gameplay. Graphics are a bit of a different story. I made a video speaking about the graphics and the uncanny valley look of the game that you should check out. After beating the game, nothing changed outside of me getting used to it. The characters may not look how I remembered at times, and I stand by that they look a little too stiff, like they're wearing a skin suit, but damn, does this game look great, especially in the environments. The jungle pops with its lush vegetation. The insides of research labs are beautifully recreated here, and they even brought back the models and magazines. For all the praise I can give the art department, there is a glaring, or should I say blurry, issue going on. Delta is not made in the Fox engine. Instead, they went with the taxing Unreal Engine 5. I can't say whether or not this game could look better elsewhere, but what I can say is that the game looks like it's covered in Vaseline most of the time. It's like a never-ending fog is present, like I'm in Silent Hill. You'll get used to it after a while, but the original game looks crystal clear. I think this has more to do with the 4K upscaler the game is using. It would be nice in an update to allow the game to just run at the native resolution without the upscaler. Who knows, maybe it will look better. Now, I will say cutscenes do have an issue. If you look around the border, you'll see, I guess that's VSync. I don't know what that is, but you could tell that the edges of the screen are like blurring out. That doesn't look the best in the cutscenes. And there's some weird audio issues here or there as well.
Oh, and one more thing, boss.
Yes?
It's good to hear your voice again.
Same here. After all, who knows if either of us will make it out alive?
There have been a total of 5 different versions of Metal Gear Solid 3, Delta included, all of which added or removed something from the game. Now, Delta doesn't have everything from every port of Metal Gear Solid 3, but most of them are back. The mysterious Guy Savage demo has returned, a concept for a canceled game that Kojima was planning to work on. Snake vs. Monkey is back, where Snake hunts down the Ape Escape monkeys, and there's even a cameo from Astrobot. Secret Theater, a wacky collection of remixed cutscenes, has been included, along with a model viewer, a record tracker, and in the future, a new multiplayer game mode that should satisfy the fans of Metal Gear Solid Online. For all the bad, this is still Metal Gear Solid 3, and unless you completely screw up, it was always going to be a great game. The remake is perfect for newcomers of the franchise and excellent for fans that wanted a modern take on their favorite game. The remake is so well received that Konami is not only working on Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2, but they're looking for fan feedback on the next game to remake. Just don't ask for Raiden Revengeance. Going from the original Metal Gear Solid 3 to the remake felt like I played a great game back to back, just from a different lens. Delta is a great way to experience Metal Gear Solid 3, and as hard as it is to say this, it's the definitive way to play it. Just don't forget that the original is just as good, and if you're up for some early 2000s controls, you can have 2 fun but different experiences. Now I'm getting back on Delta to throw snakes at soldiers.
The name's Eva.